Hey everyone, Will Brink here, brinkzone.com. Topic today, supplements versus drugs, or nutritional supplement industry versus pharmaceutical industry, or however you want to phrase it. There's been a misunderstanding, intentional misunderstanding, by the powers that be, that a lot of people, and some people should know better, are under the impression that the supplement industry is not regulated. And you'll see that a lot of times in articles, in the media and so forth, and people writing will say things like, pharmaceutical drugs are inherently safer because they're regulated by the FDA, the supplement industry, and the nutritional supplements are unregulated, quote unquote, and so forth. All of which is complete nonsense. To summarize this. And a friend of mine, Dr. Douglas Kalman, put up a great chart, which I'll show you in a minute, comparing pharmaceuticals as far as regulation and so forth. Now, and we'll go into that, but we're also going to cover another discussion about the reality of the misnomer about pharmaceutical drugs being inherently safer because they're regulated by the FDA. I'm going to show you an article that I did, and I'll link it below, on the massive quality control problems that the pharmaceutical industry that most people are completely unaware of because the media doesn't cover it. Why doesn't the media cover it? Well, because the major source of income for the media is the pharmaceutical industry. So we'll get into that in a second, but I'm going to bring up this excellent chart. Now Dr. Kalman has been in the regulatory area of supplements for a long time. So this really is a specialty area for him, discussion-wise. And he's, like I say, worked in the, dealt with regulatory issues of supplements. So it's not, this is his wheelhouse, for this discussion. And what I'll do, put this chart up. Let's see. I'm working with some new software as far as filming these days, because the one I was using just was not working very well, and so I might be a little clunky here. So hold with me. Let's see if I can bring in. Hold on. Let me see. I need source number 2. Okay, there we go. I think that is that guy. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing that. And then we got me here. Okay, so hopefully you are seeing the same thing I'm seeing, which is the chart, which put up by Dr. Kalman, is the dietary supplement industry federally regulated. Now there's your comparison chart. There are sources below it you can go look up. So the supplement industry is highly regulated. Now, it is not regulated in the same manner as drugs, nor should it be. The major differences here, hopefully. Okay, can we see my... So, dietary supplements, you can see that the major difference between dietary supplements and pharmaceutical drugs is the pre-market approval. You do not need pre-market approval from the FDA to do supplements. You do need one... You have to get pre-market approval by the FDA for drugs, and the way that you get pre-market approval for drugs is to do clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. Now, that's a good thing. I'm absolutely in favor of clinical trials on supplements and, of course, drugs. They're not required for supplements, and, in a sense, I would say that is something of an Achilles heel for the industry, for the supplement industry, obviously. But you also have to understand, and this is a whole other topic that would just take too long to get into, but there would be no supplements on the market if they required phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical trials. You're looking at, probably a minimum of $100 million. And the costs of getting drugs to market through the FDA process is, like I say, a slightly different topic. So I'm not going to go down that one too much. But let's just say that it prevents a lot of excellent drugs coming to market. And again, I'm in favor of clinical trials, of course, showing safety and efficacy and so forth of supplements. When I do consulting work for various companies, supplement companies. I firmly and consistently push them to do clinical trials. I think that's essential. That's a no-brainer, but a slightly different topic. However, when you look at this chart, you can obviously see that supplements are regulated. They're highly regulated. Now, we could debate, of course, the regulatory capabilities of the FDA. Like I say, we're going to get into something that I want to talk about a little bit, which is, like say, this sort of classic. If you don't know the topic, if you haven't looked into this topic, you just get this glossy pharmaceutical drugs are inherently safer because they are regulated by the FDA over supplements, and that is just simply not true. And like I say, what I'm going to show as a little bit is go into this article on the quality control issues that plagues the pharmaceutical industry that you just don't hear about. And I don't know. Well, I know why, but I wish it got more traction. Honestly, I think that I'm always amazed that even health influencers, writers, researchers, they really just don't talk. Besides myself, I just don't see anybody really discussing this at length. So I'm going to get rid of this chart. I'm going to bring in this article. I'll link it below. So let's see. Where is it? Why are we not looking at it here? That should be what we're looking at. Hold on. Like I say, I have to get used to this guy here. So let me get rid of this guy. Let me get to the source, and hopefully I can bring this in. Okay, there we are. Okay, so let us talk a little bit about, and I guess my point of going to this article is there's a real hypocrisy and double standard as far as I'm concerned, at least as far as the way the media, the way the FDA portrays themselves, where the pharmaceutical industry portrays themselves as being above board, and my personal feeling is that again the FDA and powers that be really should get their own house cleaned up before they again attack nutritional supplements as they do. And the bottom line, for the most part, when it comes to nutritional supplements, by and large, basically you're wasting money. I mean, but they rarely do nutritional supplements, really harm people seriously. And again, if they do, they should be pulled off the market. And if anybody knowingly puts harmful compounds in supplements, the law should definitely kick in there. But by and large, the worst most people get from supplements is a waste of money. However, from drugs, from pharmaceutical drugs, they kill people. The alternative to drugs and things like Vioxx. I mean, I don't think people are as aware as they really ought to be. And this is not even like quality control issues. This is not tainted drugs. This is drugs that supposedly got through the approval process of these clinical trials and supposedly showed safety. And once they're on the market, they're not safe. They were quite dangerous. Now, this isn't even talking about this other topic that I want to cover a little bit here. So let's talk here. Let's go down this article. I updated it in 2019, but this is really honestly tip of the iceberg as far as like easily finding companies that knowingly, for example, did not put the active drug in their drugs. I mean, like I say, so if you're somebody who's taking think you're taking a drug and it's not even in there, well, obviously, a whole lot of really awful things can happen. Life extension, I wrote another version of this for life extension. It's a longer version, but so over the same period, 2019 investigated when medicine makes patients sick or sicker. Over the same period, 65 drug-making facilities recalled nearly 300 products within 12 months of passing Food and Drug Administration inspection, as with this case stool softener analysis, yada, yada. So, so you're basically watching the news. This is how I introduced this article. You're basically watching the news. You're seeing, another another drug commercial. Again, I do not think that drug companies should be able to direct market their products on television. I think it was a massive mistake allowing them to do so. Again, another topic. But my point being is that bias reporting is the norm. Again, the major income source of the media and television in these days is drug companies. So they're not gonna see an in-depth look at this. So I cover that, and then I go on to cover some. Examples of drug companies getting caught, whether it's tainted drugs, whether it was drugs, like I say, knowingly not actually putting the drug, the active compound in the drug. I mean, that's obviously people should jail time for that. Here's a whole list of just ones that were easy for me to find. That were tainted, they had gone bad, the doses were off, and so on and so forth. So what I really want to drive home here was, here's the one I was talking about. GlaxoSmithKline was paid $750 million in civil and criminal penalties for knowingly selling contaminated, adulterated, ineffective drugs. That's unbelievable to me. Now you would say, well, they got caught, they paid a fine, so on and so forth. But the problem is, of course, if the fine does not at least equal or exceed what they made in profits, they don't care. I mean, this gets buried. They really should fine them based on the profit that they made. If not, it should be profit times something additional. If the companies are not losing money, market share, stock prices, and so forth by doing this, then they're not going to stop doing it, right? I mean, that's just common sense. That's just bottom line type stuff. So, and there are papers there are even review papers that have looked at the double standard of how the FDA views supplements versus drugs, the way the media does, and the way a lot of medical professionals, again, a lot of medical professionals will unfortunately tell you the same thing, that, supplements are unregulated, so they're not as safe and effective and so forth. And again, I don't think they are aware of the horrific quality control issues that the pharmaceutical industry suffers. This was 2019. I am sure I would have absolutely no problem. From when I wrote the article, the original article, let me just back up a little. Let's go back to the top here. When I wrote this article originally, and I updated it, it actually, not only had it not gotten any better, it actually got worse. I found even more of them. So I have no doubt that from 2019 to 2023, where we are now, that I would have no problems finding this. So take a look at this article. Let's jump over to another one. I just want to show you the double standard. So here was an article in. Let me make sure that's coming up. Okay, so that's coming up where I want it to come up. So here's an article right here that was in Scientific American. Just to give you an idea of how this really sounds bad. So look at here we go. Hundreds of dietary supplements are tainted with prescription drugs. That sounds obviously pretty bad. Now, right, the first sentence, dietary supplements aren't regulated like pharmaceutical drugs, so that means they shouldn't contain pharmaceutical drugs. Well, okay, no shit. But anyway, this sounds, I mean, honestly, I have to admit, I think I personally would probably still take my chances with supplements than I would over what I found in the pharmaceutical industry. But anyway, so what they found here was that if you read a little deeper into this, basically these tainted supplements were in a very specific narrow product category, which is, of course, sex pills, which had Viagra in them, and that's a very common tainted. And, of course, weight loss supplements contain some weight loss drugs. Not a good thing. You don't want that. Obviously, that's a negative. But there's no real FDA regulation per se that would stop that. I mean, if you have company that's going to be dishonest and they're going to taint a supplement, and again, this is the tainted part. The intentional tainting of adding pharmaceutical drugs is in a very narrow, like I say, it's a very narrow category. Drugs and supplements. So I'll put this below. Here it is. During this period, 776 dietary supplements were found to contain drugs. That sounds pretty bad. But then, of course, of these, basically, let's say approximately 90% were marketed very narrowly for sexual enhancement and weight loss. And then, of course, you're always going to, and then the rest was on bodybuilding, muscle building. So those three categories are almost always, well, they obviously that's your 100% of where, if you're going to have tainted, intentionally tainted supplements with drugs, that's where they're going to be. And again, they obviously they're taking advantage of people's, anytime you talk about sex, weight loss, or building muscle, there's just a sucker born every minute, unfortunately. But again, there's no real necessary FDA regulation that would change that. So let me get out of this and conclude quickly. I don't want to make this a long one. But there's my basic points that whatever most people think, and unfortunately people that should know better, obviously in the medical profession, about how regulated the supplement industry is. It is far more regulated than most people think it is. The pharmaceutical industry, even with all the regulations, unfortunately is not what most people actually realize it is as far as safety, as far as quality control. Now, why is that? Well, unfortunately, the FDA and the pharmaceutical industry are unfortunately one and the same in that the pharmaceutical industry basically pays for the FDA salaries. The employees of the FDA and the pharmaceutical industry are interchanged. They go back and forth. A lot of people that have worked in pharmaceutical industry work for the FDA. People that have worked for the FDA go work in pharmaceutical industry. There is a tremendous amount of nepotism, unfortunately, in there. Now, this is not intentionally a pro-supplement, anti-pharmaceutical rant. The supplement industry has a lot of problems that could be improved, should be improved. I've always been, again, a champion of data, of doing studies, very hard on companies. I think this is also, again, where it's important to find supplement companies that you can trust, that they're sourcing, that they do a lot of third-party testing and so forth. And I think it's also just important to realize that buyer beware when it comes to pharmaceuticals, and you really have to do your research. And so I'm not anti-pharmaceutical. If I need medications, I'm going to take them. I take some medications now. It's not, and nor am I just trying to champion the supplement industry. Both of them definitely have their problems that need to be improved. Both of them are buyer beware. Both of them require you to do your homework. But I would tell you that the anti-supplement rhetoric of it not being regulated is not true. And I can also tell you that the default position that pharmaceutical drugs are inherently safer due to regulation is also not true. So hopefully that summarizes what I was trying to say. If you like this vid, obviously, please hit the likes and follow this channel. And hopefully you've tried some Alpha Joe over my shoulder. Hold on, is that working? Okay, I gotta go. Because it feels good, it tastes good, it's good for you, has good data. But that's my talk for today, and I'll see you all on the brink zone.